Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Monday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Yes, I'm going to talk about Bam Margera again. I'm going to talk about Robert Downey Jr. too. I'm going to talk about rehab and detox and how they work together. Because a lot of people, I even when I actually went into rehab or detox, I didn't even know. The first time I went in, I didn't even understand the process, really. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, too, and how I didn't take any of it seriously, kind of like Bam Margera. Okay, since I did the last video about Bam's, he was all distraught about not being able to see his child, and he claimed he was going to go use under the boardwalk with the bums until he was no more. And he said it in a lot harsher terms. Since then, there's been more. There's been a sighting, and then there's been an APB, I guess, a Twitter APB. I don't know if there's such a real thing as a Twitter APB put out on Bam. And then there's a little news after that. This is all in the last 3 or 4 days. I know some of you watching this are just getting sick and tired of hearing about Bam. I read on Twitter the latest. I'll have the link down below. It was the latest info on Bam going missing in the last day or two. And there wasn't one kind comment underneath there. Every comment I read was, this guy, I'm so sick of hearing about this guy. They were all negative. Like he's never been anybody. Won't he just be done with it? I wish he'd just disappear. They were all terrible comments, and a lot of people are feeling like that. From my point of view, as a recovering addict, it's exactly like watching a slow train wreck or a replay of my life. Really, it's exactly like that for me. Part of me is just like, oh God, part of me, it's almost painful to watch because I'm seeing myself. I have to admit that this was me, and I did these things. All right, what am I talking about? Since the last time I did a Bam Margera video, about 3 days ago, more has happened. In the last video, like I said, he was threatening to smoke himself into oblivion with the bums underneath the boardwalk. That was the last video I did. Since then, the day after, I believe this was Saturday, he pops up in Pennsylvania. Somebody's filming this, and he's sitting at a table at a diner outside, and he's arm wrestling. And he's in great spirits. He's got his gold sunglasses on, his tats, and it's sunshine. It looks like he's having brunch or something. Everybody, the rest of the diners are laughing, and he's arm wrestling a large black man, which I don't know if it's a bodyguard. I don't think Bam has bodyguards. It kind of looked like a bodyguard, might be. He's arm wrestling this bodyguard, and I'm thinking about this behavior. The day before, he's all distraught. He's like, if you don't give me my social, let me see my son. Meanwhile, the mother of his kid is just saying, just get yourself some help, and we'll give you a supervised visit. And it just makes it look like he's full of it. It looks like he's playing everybody, because the day after he said that that he was just gonna that he was so distraught, he's all just smiles, and I looked for alcoholic beverages on the tables, because I thought about this. He's an adult. He's in his late 30s, early 40s. I can't. You have to excuse me. I can't remember right now. I mean, this isn't how an adult acts in public. It looks like brunch, and one of the people there is saying, "Oh, we're going to flip over the table." And I thought about this, and it's just honestly, from my point of view, alcohol's got to be involved in this. Which just makes it even more obvious that he's not taking this seriously yet. Like when I talked about in the last video, once you get into recovery, you realize that is the most important thing in your life above all else. I can't have anything in my life, my family, people I love, money, house, job. Recovery comes before all that, because there is nothing without recovery. I can have none of that. I'm useless without recovery. And obviously, so he's in Pennsylvania, and he's laughing, and he's arm wrestling, and it makes it look like the video the day before was just a bunch of bull, where he was all distraught, that he's going to go do this or that. It looks like he was crying wolf, really is what it looks like. Okay, let's move up a day to Sunday. His brother, I believe, Bam's brother, puts out a Twitter APB. I don't know if there's such a thing. That he got a very concerning message from Bam that had once again, Bam was hinting that he was going to do away with himself, and they couldn't find him. So his brother, the links will all be down below for this. So Sunday, his brother gets on Twitter and says, if APB, if anybody sees him, please let in the Los Angeles area, because he was supposed to fly back from Pennsylvania back to LA, and he disappeared. And now, again, later Sunday, this is in West Coast time. Last night, apparently the APB was called off. They found out where Bam is. I'm going to tell you guys exactly what happened. He was using. He was using. When I used to use, I would disappear. I would go into my own seclusion, lock the doors, and use this particular substance that he's using exactly. To be quite honest with you guys, I would usually end up sitting in a locked room, naked, with everything all torn up, pornography all over the walls, sweat pouring down my face, peeking out the windows. It's really sad. This is why people go into hiding. If you look back, I watched an A&E biography yesterday. I just happened to be flipping through the channels, and it was Robert Downey Jr. Now, granted, this A&E biography was about 15 years old, which made it kind of more relevant, because at the end of it, they said, geez, we really hope that Robert Downey keeps this up. This is when he was in his 40s. And now he is 58 years old, and he is just rocketed back to superstardom. He's taken his recovery seriously. If you remember that last incident, this is what I'm talking about. He was found in a hotel room. Remember Robert Downey Jr.? Right after he got out, he was released. He was found again with a firearm, I believe, and like an ounce of Colombia's finest. And I think that was one of the last episodes. Again, this is what addicts do. When addicts use, they disappear. Because they know they're not supposed to be using. And plus, there's a selfish part of this where there's all sorts of sides to this, but that's what I used to do. I would just go off the map. I wouldn't answer the phone because I knew I didn't sound normal. I didn't look normal. I had sweat pouring down my face. My jaw was going from one side to the other. I was grinding my teeth. I remember I would go back out to re-up, as they say, and it would be like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd be sitting in the car with sweat pouring down my face, and I'm like, oh my God, if a cop ever pulls me over now, I shouldn't be driving. It was stupid to be driving. I was like, I won't even have a chance. If a cop comes up and puts a flashlight on me, that's gonna be the end of the story right there, because I do not look anywhere near normal. This is why addicts. This is part of the reason why addicts go into. So this is why I'm just guessing here, but I'm 99.9% sure that's what he was doing. He disappeared somewhere between Pennsylvania and LA, I guess, and now he's back in touch, and he's probably all contrite and apologetic, and I need help. Oh, I'm going to end it. And he is. The thing about it is, I'm sure he is serious. I'm sure he is really tired of doing this. There was times where I threatened to end myself, and I wasn't serious. I was just looking for money or sympathy. And then there were times when I didn't say anything to anybody, and I actually attempted it, and came through an act of God. I got lucky, and it didn't work. I think those are the times when you don't tell other people, in my case, that are the most dangerous, where you're really seriously going to do it. Okay, let's talk about this. So I see him going through the motions. I was in and out of detoxes and rehabs over 13 times. I am not proud of this. At the end, like in the 10th time, 11th time, 12th time, this is what would happen. I'd get to the end of my rope. I would owe people money. I would use up all of my money in my bank account. I'd have people after me. My house would be a mess. The bills would be unpaid. Everything in my life would just be a total mess. and I'd run out of money. I'd have no chance of getting any money in the next week, and well, it's time to go to rehab. And that's what I would do. You know, I hate to say this, but that's what it became. The first time I went, I didn't understand the difference between detox, which comes first. You go into the hospital to get everything out of your system and normalize. You know, if you're an alcoholic, it's especially important because you could die from withdrawals. And I would go in and they'd give me methadone or some other clonidine. I was in there so many times. You could, after you go into detox more than 3 times in 1 year, they start giving you methadone. They start giving you something that lowers your blood pressure, clonidine, with a patch. That's how many times I was in there, more than once every 3 months. The thing I didn't understand, you go in and you go into what's called detox, and then rehab follows that. When you go into detox, first they get, you know, you're a mess when you go in, and they get you on some drugs to keep you safe physically, your blood pressure and everything, to bring you down and get the drugs out of your system. It's usually 5 to 7. It could be as little as 3 or 4 days, and it could be as much as 7 days. It's usually not more than that. During that time, you go to meet. You know, you have meetings. You sit down with doctors and therapists, and they talk about what you're going to do at the end of these 4 or 5 days. And they recommend they have people there to set up appointments to get you to take a bus to take you to what's then called the rehab, where you spend 30 to 60 to 90 to 6 months, to 90 days to 6 months, depending on what your case is, how badly you need it, what your insurance will cover, et cetera, et cetera. When I got in there, I believe that, you know, after 5 days, I'm good to go. Yeah, this is, and a lot of people still, you know, if I believed it, a lot of other people probably believe it. It's like, okay, after 5 or 6 days, I got out, and it's like, okay, you know, I'm no longer addicted. The drugs are out of my system. And I really believed, you know, I wanted to be clean. I was at the end of my rope. I was using within 2 hours. You know, I had the best intentions. I was like one of the top, you know, out of all the people in that wing with me during that period, I was probably one of the most sincere people about wanting to be clean. But the moment my foot hit that sidewalk, I didn't know what to do with myself. I went right, you know, okay, it's 2 o'clock. What do I usually do on 2 o'clock at 2 o'clock? And I just fell right back in. You know, it was a huge mistake not to just go have a bus take me directly from detox into rehab. There's detox comes first, 5, 6 days, then rehab. And then even after I went to rehab, it took a while. What really worked for me was medically assisted treatment. It actually got to the point one time where this was one of the last trips I took to detox before I actually got clean. I was driving to detox, and I actually, with the last of my money, I bought half a bundle. That's 5 bags of heroin. And I drove up 84 to Hartford, Route 84 to Hartford, and I was actually snorting them in the car as I was driving up the road. I told one of the doctors, one of the therapists, it was actually a doctor, when I got to the detox, we were having meetings, and I told him about this, and he took me to task. He said, you know, it took a lot to get this doctor angry, but he said, what if me and my family were driving on that road? It really scared him when I told them that I was driving up 84 doing this, and it made me realize, you know, what I was doing, you know, but yet I still kept doing it. When I got to the hospital that day, I still had a bag or 2 left, and I left it in my glove compartment. So I drive up to rehab to get clean with 5 bags. I do 3 of them on the way up. I leave 2 of them in my glove compartment for when I get out of rehab, because I want to get clean. You see what I mean? I was at the end of my rope. I wished I would pass in my sleep. I was so sick and tired of doing this, yet I kept doing this. I kept doing what I hated. This is addiction. You know, I believe that Bam doesn't want to live like this. I believe that he he can't go on living like this, but he can't stop either. And that's addiction. The links will be down below. I see I'm running along on time. I could talk so much more about this, and I will. Have a good Monday.